Welcome back everybody. Today I'm going to start my first video on this book that I mentioned in a previous video, which is In Search of Perfumes by Dominique Roque. And I want to talk about the first chapter that was mentioned in the book, and that's about the processing and harvesting of and creation of labdanum, which is a very important material used in a lot of perfume. I'll just give you a brief summary of what they talk about. Basically, it's set in some land in Andalusia in Spain. Now, Labdanum that produces, the cistus species that produces labdanum used in perfumery is known as Cistus ladanither. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. The leaves, I don't know if you can see this, are very similar to this. This is a different species of cistus that I have growing in my yard, but it's not the same cistus that produces labdanum, although the leaves are very, very similar. So what happens every year is when they flower in late spring, early summer, shortly after, the leaves and the stems develop this sticky resin all over them. And what's described in this chapter is that they basically are all chopped off. All the sticky stems and branches and leaves are chopped off the plants. And I'm skipping some detail here, but basically the labdanum is extracted by boiling them in water and soda, and then at some point when they've boiled enough, they use sulfuric acid poured into these vats, which basically removes all the air and water from that solution, and you're left with a sticky labdanum paste or butter in the bottom of the vats. Now, I am lucky enough to actually have a little jar of Labdanum resinoid, and I'm going to try and describe the smell. Now, labdanum is a key ingredient, a key part of in classic chypre structures. So the classic chypre structure was bergamot, labdanum, and oak moss, and then whatever was built around those three accords. And of course, labdanum is a very, very key component of a lot of traditional, what you guys would know and smell as amber accords. So if you've smelled things like Ombre Sultan by Serge Lutens, or Grand Soir by Maison Francis Kurkdjian, or even something like L'air du Desert Marocain, labdanum will feature in the accord that everyone kind of recognizes as the amber accord. It is usually combined with vanilla and benzoin to create that accord. And then what perfumers would likely do is play around with the proportions of each of those, add spice, add some musks, whatever. But essentially, the three key components, labdanum, vanilla, benzoin, and you've got yourself a very, very basic amber accord. When I smell labdanum resinoid, to me, it is what I think this is what gives amber accords its body. It's not quite as sweet as what you would get from vanilla or from benzoin. There is definitely a almost boozy facet to labdanum as well. It's actually quite animalic. When I say animalic, there's animalic facets. It's not as, I guess, dirty as certain musks and other animal-derived products or synthetic versions of those. But it's certainly not as, to my nose, sweet and refined as benzoin and vanilla. It also has some smoky facets and of course, what you interpret as resinous. Labdanum is all of that. To me, when I think of tones, it's very dark, almost like a black and crimson toned in my head when I think about it in a color, and it's got a very low kind of hefty frequency when it sits in perfume, and of course it is used as mainly a base note. Now, knowing all of that, it's very interesting. I've chosen a few perfumes here that I'm actually very familiar with that use labdanum in interesting ways. So I think the first one I want to talk about is probably the newest of these three, and that's Chanel Le Lion. This one is just, to me, it is dominated by the labdanum. The way it's composed with that bright citrus in the opening initially lightens it up. But what I love about this particular composition is that once the citrus is burned off, I've mentioned before how much I love the way that this develops, and it's paired beautifully with a gorgeous patchouli note, a very Chanel patchouli note, but never gets in the realm of getting close to something like Coromandel, and also never, to my nose, ever gets quite sweet enough to be like really compared to something like Shalimar. It's its own thing. So labdanum really is the thing that makes Le Lion, the quality of the labdanum note in here. And now, having said that, when I look at a perfume like this one, which is Patchouli Nobile by Nobile 1942, this is kind of the opposite. This also opens up with a citrus top note, but it is dominated by this beautiful, very warm patchouli, very earthy. And it's almost as if the patchouli and the labdanum have swapped roles. So this is held together by the patchouli, but the labdanum does come through here to give it this beautiful warmth and resonance. And it's a very, Patchouli Nobile is a very warm blanket patchouli, and I think it's the labdanum that does that in that particular perfume. Another perfume that I don't actually have a sample of, but I'm familiar with, and the way labdanum is featured in this perfume is fairly recent release by Serge Lutens, which is La Couche de Diable. And that one there really showcases the way labdanum can be used in leather accords as well. So not just chypre, not just amber. Labdanum is a key component in some leather accords when it's used with things like birch tar as well. It's a really versatile material, and I get a lot of leatheriness from La Couche de Diable, and the labdanum is mainly responsible for that. Last perfume that I want to mention is one of my all-time favorites, 1740 by Histoire de Parfum. So there's a lot more than labdanum going on in this perfume. Of course, we've got the Immortelle giving it that kind of spicy, dried fruit amplification. We've got lots of birch tar. There's lots of very dark, bitter patchouli in here. But here is where the labdanum, with that birch tar, creates a whole different smoky kind of leather accord in this particular perfume. And I really don't believe, I could be proven wrong, I really don't believe that can be achieved without the role that labdanum is playing in this particular perfume. And of course, You can go on Fragrantica or Parfumo and look up Labdanum and have a look at all the perfumes that feature it. There'll be heaps. Not to mention all the perfumes that just mention, that just list an amber accord, because there's very likely to be Labdanum used in that amber accord as well. It is a beautiful material. If you can get your hands on the raw material itself and become familiar with it, you'll soon realize how much you're smelling it in some of your favorite perfumes. It's been really interesting to learn about the process that they use to make it, and I'm really looking forward to doing the other chapters of this book now because of it. But that was Labdanum. Of course, I would like to know your favorite perfumes that feature Labdanum, and if you can be bothered, let me know how the reason why you like the way it works in that perfume as well. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm not sure what the next chapter will be. It'll probably be lavender, so look forward to that. And I'll see you all soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.